A little over a year ago, a YouTuber known as CuppaTeaEXE took it upon himself to recreate the entirety of Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex from FNAF Security Breach in Minecraft. This map is absolutely massive and just about to scale, I think. I'll leave a link to the world download in the description for those who are interested, along with a link to CuppaTea's channel. He's currently recreating all the other FNAF games in Minecraft, and I'd highly recommend checking it out. Now, the raw dedication from seeing him recreate this whole build gave me an idea. What if I did the same? Rebuilding the entirety of a game's locales in Minecraft, that is. But what game could I recreate in Minecraft? Mario Kart Wii. I mean, you did read the title, right? Yeah, if it wasn't obvious, Mario Kart Wii is my favorite game of all time. Plain and simple. I mean, I tried to grow a following a few months back from speedrunning unlocking the best fictional character ever made, after all. Plus, I did test the waters a couple weeks ago by recreating SNES Mario Circuit 1 using ice and boats. So this project is right up my alley. So, I guess this is what I'll be up to for the next few months. Let's see how long it takes to recreate every track from Mario Kart Wii. Take a shot every time I say Mario Kart Wii in this video. Alright, let's start strong with Luigi Circuit. No, the other one. No, the other one. No, I should mention right off the bat that I'm actually playing in Snapshot 1.19.4 pre-release 1 because it's currently the only version of Minecraft where you can do this! I discovered this while making these recreations and flipped out saying, "Oh my god, this is gonna make everything so much easier!" And then they removed it in literally the next snapshot. So, what the f***, Mojang? Anyways, Linguini Shrimpini is a very basic track in Mario Kart Wii, so therefore it's a very basic track in my recreation. Though there was surprisingly a lot of detail going into the track that I never noticed in the original. Mainly the thousands of billboards all about Luigi, aka the coolest motherfucker around. Well, aside from, one. No one will ever be as cool as him. Also the audience. It's not exactly something you're supposed to see close up, so I just kind of spammed a bunch of heads of Shy Guys, Yoshis, Koopas, etc. Well, hey, at least it doesn't look as bad as the audiences in the booster course pack. Now for gameplay. As I alluded to before, I use the mechanics of ice and boats to give that sort of racing feel, you know? I also incorporated a couple different ramps represented by different types of wood used for the pressure plates. Basic oak plates are standard trick ramps, mangrove or the occasional crimson plates are boost ramps, and warped plates are glide ramps. And you will see by the time we get to Moo Moo Meadows how I tried to simulate gliding without a ton of commands. Speaking of which, all these ramps use the same setup of the pressure plates activating pistons to launch the player with slime blocks. I feel like I could have worded that better. I also decided that, with how I'm making these tracks, that there wasn't any feasible way to create boost panels, so I can't really recreate the last portion of this track with all the boosts. So to compensate, I just added a glide ramp at the end of the road. I hope that's enough to satisfy. And that's Luigi Circuit. Really not much to say, but then again, there really isn't much to say about the original track. So, now we're moving on to... Welcome to Moo Moo Meadows! In my opinion, this track is kinda boring, so instead of basing it off of the original iteration of the track, I'm gonna instead base it off of the absolute glow-up it got in Mario Kart 8. That being said, let's set the mood. Much better. You know, that's another rule I'm giving myself in this series. I'm gonna base each track off of the most recent iterations of the tracks. Basically, if there's a Mario Kart 8 version of the track, that's what it'll be based on. Now let's talk about the features of this map. Obviously, it features a bunch of cows to roam the track, so to recreate that, I added a bunch of cows with no AI, and gave them name tags to ensure they don't despawn. I also discovered that with the cows having no AI, running into them with a standard boat won't capture them in the back seat. So that's good to know for future tracks. I also decided to give them fun nicknames, so let's meet the cast, shall we? So first here we have Grungle and his brother Grungler. Next we got my homie Moo Moo, always chilling on the sign here. Then we got Fart and Fart 2 and Fart 3, they're all siblings. Ooh, then we got the twins, Bungly and Gungly. Then there's Moo! 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 Oh, here's my girls Grungly and Chungly. They cool and chill. Next up we got Burger and Boonger 2. I know, real creative. Oh, we got more twins! This is Goober and this is Scoober. And to wrap up, we got Fluger and Fluger 2. Anyways, and now for the gliding I mentioned earlier. I did this. Well, that's at least the best I could think of. If anyone has any better suggestions in the comments, I'd be happy to try them out. What else is there to say? Well, I have these actual Toad spectators on the sidelines who are just small armor stands. I use this website to properly pose the stands to my liking instead of going through the tedious process of name tagging the armor stand and using the data command. It's just easier to use the website that I will also link in the description. And just like Linguini Shrimpini, I have not much else to say about this track. So let's just keep the ball rolling and move on to...
Time for yet another classic track. Mushroom Gorge introduces a new gimmick with these mushroom platforms. Red mushrooms that are bouncy, green mushrooms that are solid, and when the track returned in Mario Kart 7, we got blue mushrooms that make you glide, which also cut off the entire left path, so that sucks. Thankfully, this change was rectified when the track returned in 8 Deluxe's Booster Course Pass, where there's the full left and right paths, but also the glide shroom jutting out from the left path. So that's the version I'm basing my recreation on. Now as for how the mushrooms actually work, the green mushrooms are exactly that. Just green mushrooms with the usual ice on top to make it solid. Meanwhile, the red mushrooms are a much more complicated setup. You have a pressure plate on top of some obsidian with a piece of redstone dust underneath, surrounded by pistons with slime blocks on top. So, once the boat hits the top of the pressure plate, it springs you upward. Same setup applies to the glide shrooms, with the difference being in the wood I use for the pressure plates. Mangrove for red shrooms, warped for glide shrooms like I mentioned earlier with the ramps. Now this mechanism does have one kinda weird caveat. As you can see, sometimes that happens, and I have no idea how to fix it. So if somebody can explain that to me why this happens and how to prevent it, please let me know down below. And another thing worth mentioning about the aesthetic of this track is that I build all these tracks using a 12-chunk render distance, so increasing the distance results in, I also decided to try improvising with my own aesthetic for the cave section because, you know, game doesn't have colored lighting, so I can't really recreate the beautiful blue and purple color combination the 8 Deluxe version has in the game. So I said, f*** it, here's a bunch of glowberry vines instead. Oh hey, wait a minute. What are these random boost ramps doing here? Long story short, I wanted to make it so every track was not only playable like normal, but also possible to race backwards. You know, kinda like Mario Kart Tour. Some tracks I put simple boost ramps for this aesthetic, but others, you know how in 8 Deluxe's version of Peach Gardens, you take a detour on lap 3 that leads you to racing the course backwards? Yeah, that's what I tried to replicate for a lot of these tracks. You'll see in a second what I mean. And that's that. Another course down and done with. Now let's end off this video with the one and only track that Nintendo refuses to remake in later games for whatever reason. So, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals, put your hands together for the one, the only... Oh, shit! It's Toad's Factory! This track doesn't really do anything new besides these conveyor belts, which I sorta replicated? What, I didn't say they had to move. There was also a lot of points with 1 block tall guardrails, so I had to use a ton of barrier blocks to ensure your boat doesn't careen off the side of the ledge and fall into the moat below. Well, at least where the guardrails are, that is. Other than that, I do have some unfortunate news. I couldn't figure out an elaborate way to make the excavators at the end move like they're supposed to. Yeah, I know. Nor could I figure out a way to make the conveyor belts move like I mentioned. Or the hydraulic presses at the beginning. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I'm really not the most knowledgeable with commands or big brain redstone, so this track isn't as functional as the others. But as a somewhat fair trade-off, I made an extra route in the middle of the, well, this area of the track that I'm calling a loading dock just because the wall texture in the original kind of looks like a bunch of garage doors. Or at the very least, that's how I picture it. So I opened one up and added an extra route that leads to playing the course backwards. Again, like Peach Gardens and 8 Deluxe. Other than that, yeah, there's really not much else to say about this track, so that's yet another banger down and done. I hope y'all enjoy playing on it when I inevitably release it, if I can figure out how. And just like that, we've finished the Mushroom Cup. In all honesty, this wasn't the hardest cup to conquer, as it has some of the more simple and easy to build layouts. Well, besides Mushroom Gorge, but that's besides the point. I hope y'all are willing to follow me on the rest of this adventure to build the entire game as the tracks get more complex and more varying in elevation, with more routes and more obstacles and more pain and suffering for me to endure. Yippee. Next time we'll be taking a look at the Flower Cup, so feel free to subscribe to not miss when I upload. And I'll see y'all at Mario Circuit.